A family of 4 sails across the calm waters of the Caribbean on their private boat, celebrating the birthday of the youngest son, Ben. His father, Tom, teaches him how to fish, while his mother, Julia, and his older sister, Cassie, are relaxing on deck. Feeling the urge for a swim, Julia dives into the water to cool off. But after a few minutes in the water, she suddenly realizes the current is pulling her further and further away from the boat. She panics and struggles to swim back, using all her strength, but the pull is too powerful. She screams for help, but her voice is swallowed by the vast ocean. Tom finally hears something and rushes to check. He spots Julia struggling in the distance and immediately tells the kids to get on board. He steers the boat toward her and jumps into the water to rescue her just in time. Breathing heavily and shaken, Julia explains that no matter how hard she tried, the water was pulling her back with incredible force. Tom takes this seriously and warns everyone that from now on, no one gets into the water without checking with him first.
Aye, Captain.
That night, the family gathers to celebrate Ben's 13th birthday. Tom and Julia give him a brand new laptop, while Cassie gives him a Halloween mask. Julia also presents him with a bracelet she claims will protect him from harm. They then smile and pose for a family photo. Later, Cassie steps away to take a call from her boyfriend, but the signal is weak, and just as they begin talking, a fierce storm breaks out where he is and the connection abruptly cuts off. Cassie tells her father what happened, and at that moment Ben hears something strange outside. The entire family gathers to investigate and finds a group of whales surrounding the boat. Tom explains that while unusual, this sometimes happens, but when the whales start pushing against the boat, even Tom looks worried. Wanting to understand what's going on, Tom dives underwater. He surfaces shortly after, bleeding. He injured himself on the propeller while trying to avoid something he saw beneath the boat. Julia stitches his wound and he tells her the propellers are completely destroyed. With the engine out of commission, they're stranded and can't move the boat. Tom and Julia try the radio while Cassie attempts to get a signal on her phone. Then, strange roaring sounds echo from above. They rush out and see enormous objects falling from above, slamming into the ocean and sending massive waves in all directions. One is heading directly toward them. Tom uses the last bit of engine power to steer the boat away just in time. The engine explodes afterward, but the family survives. Tom soon realizes the falling debris are satellites crashing back to Earth, and the impacts send powerful waves crashing toward them. The family scrambles to secure everything and put on life jackets, but then a high-frequency noise pierces the air. Julia's nose begins bleeding, Cassie vomits, and everyone becomes dizzy and disoriented. Tom fires a flare into the sky, hoping someone will see it. But the pain and sound overwhelm them, and one by one, the family loses consciousness. The next morning, they wake to find the boat riddled with holes. They step outside and are stunned to discover they're no longer floating. They're sitting on dry ocean floor. The entire sea has vanished. Tom inspects the compass. The needle spins erratically, pointing north where it should point south. He realizes something unimaginable has happened. The magnetic poles have reversed. What was once ocean is now land, and what was land is likely underwater. He explains that this kind of event happened before, nearly 1 million years ago, wiping out nearly all life. Cassie breaks down, realizing her boyfriend is likely dead. She retreats to the cabin, crying over a photo of him. Tom tries the radio again while Ben ties balloons to the highest point, hoping someone might see them. Eventually, Tom connects with a man named Nao, who's in a deep-sea submarine. Nao explains that he and his partner were deep underwater when the ocean suddenly disappeared. He also says that in about a week, the poles will shift again and the ocean will return. Ben asks how many people the submarine can hold. Nao replies that only 3 can fit, and 1 seat is already his. Tom and Julia beg him to take their children, and after a moment of silence, Nao agrees and shares his coordinates. Tom does some quick calculations and estimates it'll take them 2 to 3 days to reach him on foot. The next morning, the family prepares for the long trek. While packing, Tom notices a man walking toward them with a dog. He cautiously approaches the man and offers him a bottle of water. The stranger, speaking an unfamiliar language, drinks it quickly, but then smashes the bottle into Tom's face and begins beating him savagely. Julia, watching from a distance, runs toward them, but before she can intervene, the stranger grabs a spear and drives it into Tom's chest. The man then turns and chases her back to the boat. He hurls the spear again, grazing her shoulder, but she manages to get back to the boat and lock the door. Julia then hides the children beneath a storage couch, telling Cassie to use the flare gun if anyone besides her opens it. She then hides in the bathroom while the stranger bursts in, rummaging through the boat and devouring any food he can find. He then heads toward the bathroom, but Julia has already escaped through a hole in the wall. Outside, the man's dog spots her and attacks, and she's forced to kill the animal in self-defense. Moments later, the man comes out and finds his dead dog. Julia races back to the boat, but the man catches up. He punches her and begins choking her violently. Cassie, watching from the hidden compartment, takes the flare gun and fires. The flare starts a fire and the family escapes the boat. Julia quickly runs back to grab the map, food and water. The man tries to stop her, but this time she manages to escape. The family mourns over Tom's lifeless body, but they don't have time to grieve for long. The man, unbelievably, is still alive and continues chasing after them. After walking a long distance across the dry ocean floor, the family finally stops to take a break. Cassie wonders if the man who attacked them might have followed them because of the colorful balloons Ben had tied up earlier. Julia quickly shuts that idea down, telling her daughter to stop blaming Ben. She then reassures her son that none of what's happened is his fault. They resume their trek, always aware that the man might still be tracking them. Later, Ben lingers behind, distracted by the sight of dead sharks lying in the sand. That's when Julia spots the man again, not far off. She urges the children to move and they run from the area, eventually finding themselves near a zone filled with toxic waste. They scramble up a hill to escape the danger and stop to catch their breath. Julia gives Ben the last bit of water from a bottle but is confused to find the bottle nearly empty. Cassie thinks she may have left the cap off, but Julia loses her temper as water is their most precious resource now and wasting even a drop could be fatal. Cassie snaps back, saying they're probably going to die anyway and one bottle won't change that. The argument grows tense before they both calm down and the family continues walking. Soon, they come across a crashed airplane lodged in the sand. Julia forces open the door and they all go inside to rest. Later, Cassie steps outside to relieve herself near the plane. Suddenly, the man appears, but it's a trap. Julia jumps out and stabs him multiple times, finally killing him. In the morning, they find his body brutally torn apart as if something had eaten parts of him. Julia realizes there's something far more dangerous than that man out there and tells the children they have to move quickly and waste no more time. Ben, wandering slightly ahead, stumbles upon a pool of dirty, salty water. He drinks some before Julia can stop him. She rushes over and pulls him away, warning that the water could make him sick, and not long after, Ben starts showing signs of illness. Julia and Cassie build a makeshift shelter out of plastic chairs they found and care for him as best they can. That night, as they sleep, Julia is startled awake by strange noises. She steps outside and hears the growing noise of animals swarming toward them. She shakes the children awake and they run. In the distance, they spot a large ship where a group of survivors is searching for food. Julia begs them for help, but they refuse, saying the animals are coming and they need to hide. They shut themselves inside metal shipping containers, locking Julia and her family out. Julia and the kids climb on top of one of the containers. Then the creatures arrive, massive, aggressive crabs. Some of them manage to climb up and bite Julia, but soon, the crabs find the hole underneath the container and swarm inside. Screams erupt as the people trapped below are torn apart. Julia ties off her wound with cloth and passes out from the pain. By morning, she wakes up alone. A sandstorm has rolled in, reducing visibility, but she searches until she finally finds Ben and Cassie again. Julia disinfects her wound using gunpowder and a lighter. They then discover a stash of food, clean water, and a working radio near the containers. Julia uses it to contact Now, who warns her that his calculations were wrong and the ocean is going to return in just a few hours. He fires a flare into the sky to guide them. The family sees it and heads in that direction. They finally reach the edge of a steep hill. At the bottom, they can see Nao's location. As they descend and keep moving, they find a cave, but rocks suddenly collapse between them, separating Julia from her kids. With her leg badly injured, she knows she can't climb. She urges Cassie and Ben to keep going without her. The submarine only has space for 3 people anyway. Cassie and Ben reluctantly continue on and reach Nao. He's barely conscious and bleeding out. He tells them he won't survive and insists they enter the sub before the ocean returns. Cassie refuses to leave her mother behind. Since Nao can't get in, she decides to go back for her. Meanwhile, Julia is fending off crabs with a gun, but she's running out of ammo. Just then, Cassie appears above her, urging her to climb. She shouts that there's room for all of them in the submarine. Julia summons the last of her strength and escapes the cave. Together, they sprint toward the submarine as the crabs chase behind. They reach it just in time and seal the hatch. Through the small window, they see the crabs surrounding them. But then, the sea comes crashing back in. Water surges over the landscape, swallowing everything. The submarine is tossed and spun violently by the crashing waves. That same sharp, deafening sound from earlier returns, and they lose consciousness. When they wake up, everything is still. They slowly open the hatch. The submarine has surfaced in what used to be a vibrant coastal city. The beaches are empty, the buildings in ruins. Seagulls and birds circle above, but there are no signs of other people.